Thank you very much, Sabina. Well, you have, Jelko, you have a French liberal next to you, even though I moved to Belgium. Well, it's a great pleasure to be here in Sarajevo, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because for a lot of reasons for the anniversary. But first, a great pleasure because it's my first time here in Sarajevo, and in 10 years of activism in LYMEC, IFLUI, and ELDR, I don't know how I managed to avoid Bosnia and Herzegovina because there's been a lot of events, but every time I managed to have another thing which prevented me from coming. So finally, I'm here. A great pleasure also because I have a member of your party in my bureau, in LYMEC bureau, who is very active, Majda Zverovic. And I've known Majda for many years, and she has also been a very good personal friend and also bringing a lot of enthusiasm and life in LYMEC. And she's not there this morning because I know she had some lectures, but it's good to be here in her country and in her party there in Sarajevo. And a great pleasure also finally because I remember my first political cultural shock in LYMEC when I started. I started in 98. It must have been in 99 or 2000 when I first met a Bosnian participant in the LYMEC event. And he was called Talik, maybe some of you know him. And it was for me a big shock because it was just a few years after Dayton, and for me I was coming from France, and you can imagine that we have very different background when you come from a peaceful, prosperous EU country, and when you meet someone who's just coming out of the war, basically, and we have the same age. So it was something I remembered and which inspired me a lot and to continue European politics. And nowhere than in the Western Balkans, this fascinating challenge of European integration is so monumental. The Dayton Agreement was only 14 years ago, 1995. I was passing my baccalaureate at the time, and then the Kosovo War, the NATO bombings, the capitulation of Milosevic was just 10 years ago, 99. At the time, I was international officer of my youth organization in France, and I was attending my third LYMEC event in Ireland. We were visiting Belfast. What a difficulty to create a dialogue between young people that were fighting against each other just a few years ago. What a difficulty also to promote liberal values of freedom and tolerance in countries where their leaders were promoting hatred and order. And what a difficulty also to promote European integration and closing down barriers when there were just like new barriers which were just created just a few years ago. It was very easy to travel in the Western Balkans just before, and now it was made very difficult. And this is what liberal parties have done in this region, changing the mentalities of people, promoting economic liberalism, political liberalism, social liberalism, and promoting also the European integration. So the facts are surely known to you, but I think they merit respect and admiration. For sure you know that Vesna Pusic, who is now a candidate for the presidency of the Croatian Republic, was the only political leader in the Croatian parliament in the 90s to protest against the country's involvement in the Bosnian conflict. She and Đurđa Aldlezic, the president of HSLS, the other liberal party in Croatia, were the only political party presidents to attend the gay pride in Zagreb. Sedomir Jovanovic, the president of the LDP in Serbia, was the person who went to Milosevic's villa after it was surrounded by the police to convince him to surrender. And he was also the first political leader to call for Serbia to recognize an independent Kosovo. And I'm certain that you have also similar examples in Bosnia. But since I'm speaking today on behalf of the European Liberal Youth, LYMEC, I would like to focus a bit on the youth aspect. Because if liberal parties were at the forefront of the fight for liberal values, then the young liberals were certainly at the vanguard. The strength of young liberals is that they're usually well-educated cosmopolitans, but they also promote liberal values, etc. But also they are, for this reason, sometimes a bit minority in their generation in this region. So they were very strong to some extent in some countries. They're very strong, though, to some extent in some countries, like, for instance, in Slovenia and Croatia, and I'm surrounded here by two politicians from these countries, and it shows the strength of their mother parties there. But it's also the case at the youth level. But in other countries, they have been growing, dying out, resuscitating, merging, like, for instance, Serbia or Montenegro. It's a process that we observe in other countries, like, for instance, nowadays in Ukraine. As for Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's a paradox in itself, because the youth of LDS has always been very strong and very stable, but I mean the mother party has had some ups and downs, and now the youth is almost like running the party, from told by our young members. So it's a bit of a paradox there. But I mean this can only be seen positively. LYMEC has also been at the vanguard with the establishment of ISIL, the Initiative of Southeastern European Liberals. We were the first political family to establish such a network. It was launched in November 2000 in Brussels, and then the first event was in February 2001 in Skopje, and Emily is there and can certainly testimony about that. And to understand what a revolution this represented, you need to imagine you back at the time. This was 5 years after Dayton, 1 year after the end of the Kosovo War. And at the time, LYMEC, ISIL were organizing summer schools, were bringing like some Serbian participants to the war areas of Croatia, or bringing like some Croatians to the die-hard rural area of Serbia, and organizing meetings in Sarajevo. All this now is maybe common, but at the time it was certainly not common to organize these type of events. And the ELDR has just followed us with the creation of Lipsin, but this is only 10 years afterwards that they created such a network. Another public action which is also quite good is this action where Croatian and Slovenian young liberal couples were kissing at the border when the political leaders were fighting about the border. So these are the kind of actions that the young liberals were doing just a few years after the end of the war. And this strong regional cooperation amongst our member organizations in the Balkan region had naturally a big effect on LYMEC. It became rapidly a big lobby inside LYMEC because they knew each other very well and they had some kind of family belonging. And I mean, it had a lot of effects both on the organization and on the policies. And I just want to mention these two aspects, and then I will close. On the organization aspects, I mean, I remember still, like, we changed our statutes in LYMEC in 2000 to accept as full members regions, organizations from non-EU countries. And I learned it to my disadvantage, actually, because I was candidate to the Bureau in 2002, and it was just a few years after they became full members, and I didn't lobby for their votes at the time, and I lost the election narrowly, despite I had the support from the President and the Secretary General, so number one and number two of the organization. I still managed to lose that election, and afterwards I never like did this mistake again. It means that they were very well organized. Also, on policies, we had the first campaign we had in LYMEC was on no visas. Europe is our home, no visas. And it was in 2006, and it had a lot of effects. We even managed to pass it as an ELDR policy in the ELDR Congress. This was like an effect of the direct influence of the Balkan organizations, and some of the most horror stories about visas were from that region, from Serbia and Bosnia. And you have numerous examples in our policy book. I mean, I will not go into the details now, but I mean, if you look at the policy book, which is the recess of all the resolutions approved in LYMEC congresses, you will find no less than 6 resolutions on Kosovo, the earliest one in '94, the latest one in 2009, all calling for an independent Kosovo, so starting from '94 to 2009. You also find no less than 5 resolutions on Bosnia-Herzegovina. And you find also like 4 resolutions on the Greek-Macedonia disputes. You find 2 resolutions on Croatia, 2 resolutions on Serbia, and then a resolution from ISIL in 2004, which is calling for that all European countries which are now outside of the EU must be invited to join the EU as soon as they meet the criteria, which has been a long-standing position of LYMEC to have the only criteria for accession should be the Copenhagen criteria and nothing more. And we have fought for this inside the LDR. And I could also mention this dispute we have with the expulsion of the young liberals of Serbia in 2003, where the liberals of Serbia had put some war crime suspect on their list for the elections, and which created a big controversy in LYMEC because the youth organization didn't condemn this action, and then we had to expel. It's one of the only occasion I've seen that's where we had to expel a member organization from LYMEC because of this reason, which is another like long-standing policy stand of LYMEC that all these war crimes should be put to the tribunal and and should not be put on the list. So all this to show that this strong regional cooperation shows that the liberals from Western Balkans had a strong influence, both on the policies but also organizationally in LYMEC. And this is a positive sign. In some countries there are strong organizations, in others they have been strong and weaker, etc. But their influence has always been there, and these synergies, these like contacts between the different parties from the region is something which is exceptional, and which is something to be counting for the future. I will not finish without thanking the organizers for their kind invitation, congratulating the Bosnian Liberals for their 20th anniversary. On behalf of LYMEC, happy birthday and long life to liberalism here in Bosnia. And I also want to thank all the Balkan liberals for their outstanding contributions to liberalism in Europe, because as I said, it's been an outstanding contribution in LYMEC, it's been an outstanding contribution in the LDR, and it should continue. And that's also why I'm present here, is to show the support from the liberals from the rest of Europe to liberalism in the Balkans. Thank you very much.